my friends are simps.
For those of you that might not be aware, I am actually a very important man, and recently I've had to travel abroad a lot doing important things, and to be honest, I've missed making music in my studio. So I was pleased to discover that when I returned to Scotland, I had a package waiting for me from one of my favourite effects pedal manufacturers, Old Blood Noise Endeavours. Now inside this package was one of their most recent creations that they'd sent over for me to check out. The rather cryptically named BL-37. This is what appears to be a fairly straightforward reverb pedal until you dig into it a wee bit and discover that it's got some interesting internal modulation to spice things up, but also a rather interesting concept of the master clock slider, which is a feature that OBNE have been deploying in various pedals recently, most notably of course across their BL series. I think this is quite an interesting thing to look at, and so let's go have a swatch at this pedal. On the surface of it, the BL-37 seems fairly simple, and to be honest, that is kind of because it is. When it comes to the hardware, BL-37 has got all of the features you would expect from a guitar effects pedal, including a nice rugged case, 9V DC power on the kind of standard barrel connection, jack, mono input and outputs, and also, rather nicely, a soft touch true bypass switch, which is very difficult to say quickly. Soft touch, true bypass switch, soft touch, true bypass switch, soft touch, true bypass switch. Fuck it, it's fine. When it comes to controls, we have dedicated knobs for mix, feedback and volume, and then we have that delightful clock slider, which is really where the magic happens. Now, taking each of these in turn, we have the mix knob, which allows you to dial in the amount of effect you want. So you can go from completely dry, where there is no effect applied at all to the incoming signal, and then we have completely wet, where you only get the affected sound. The volume knob, which is just a hop, a skip and a jump over from the mix knob.
Hop and skip and jump a lot.
Allows you to, control the effective master volume of the output. Now this might not seem particularly sexy, but it is quite important when you have an effect like this, where you can go 100% wet, so you can compensate for any perceived dip in volume. The feedback knob, effectively, I believe, according to what I've been told, feeds the output back into the input, so it is a true kind of feedback loop, or feedback circuit, whatever you want to call it. And this gives you longer tails in practice from the reverb, and it also helps kind of highlight the modulation that's going on in there, so you can hear it a bit better, and it can get a bit wild, of course, depending on the settings and the balance between everything. But let's talk a wee bit more about the clock slider, which is really the star of the show. Now, I am no electronics guru, but as far as I understand it, the premise or the idea behind the clock slider is that you can vary the master clock, which controls the frequency that all of the circuit runs at, including the modulation and everything else. Now that means in practice that if you have the slider all the way to the right, you get a more high fidelity sound with shorter reverb time, whereas if you go more towards the left, you get a much longer reverb time, which sounds much darker in pitch, but also you get a bit more of a lo-fi feel to it. If you go to the left, you have less of an attack from the initial sound, which means that this can be particularly useful for people that are interested in that kind of oceans of reverb, ambient style of music and effect. Now, this concept of a master clock variation where you can get drastically different effects is a technique that is commonly employed in various circuit bent devices, including one of my favourites, the Zoom 1201, or also on this Game Boy here, where you override the master clock with a different crystal and you can make it go all slow, which is really quite cool indeed. And it's nice to see this being used in a pedal in quite a deliberate way. One thing that I actually really like about the fact that it's on a slider and not a knob is that you can quickly move it about and get really bizarre kind of pitch variations that you can explore if you're an experimenter like myself. So that is the BL-37. This is a pretty cool pedal with a fairly simple idea. It's definitely one for those of you that like ambient droney sounds, but also if you're just someone that likes to experiment with different sounds, it is a wee bit of an unusual approach to this kind of reverb. Anyway, that's all I have to say. OBNE are cool. Go look at the stuff they make. And until next time, goodbye.